They tell us who cares about art, but they're wrong. It is the exact reason that we're fighting. For a culture, for a way of life.
What is all this?
People's lives.
Are any of you, and particularly you, George, with your outspoken nature on this, planning to visit the British Museum? It's only about a mile away from here.
We're here, we leave tonight at the end of the premiere to go to Paris to somehow insult the Parisianers about their art. So, something about a Mona Lisa in Italy or something, I suppose, that'll go over really, play well. So no, I don't think we're going to get a chance to go, quite honestly. I mean, this weekend or this day, this week. What day is it?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Okay, and then gentleman here, and then we'll come to the lady. Yeah.
A question for George. A lot of layers to this film. What in particular were you trying to say about the effect that art has on individuals and on society, and how do you hope you succeeded?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it succeeds or not. You never know how it succeeds. Time sort of figures that out. What we were doing was talking about the work that Harry and all of his all of his comrades did, which was that it wasn't just that Hitler was trying to destroy, and he wasn't just trying to kill everyone and to take their land. He was also trying to destroy their culture and say that they didn't exist. And that was, to me, that is the most important part of what these men did. They did amazing work in protecting even pieces like The Last Supper that we saw, which we didn't do a great job of protecting, from ourselves, from us bombing, and while we were prosecuting the war, which were casualties of war. But at the end, what was important was to find and return, for the first time in the history of war, the victor didn't keep the spoils. It's never happened before. And it was important because, when you see Hitler burning Salvador Dali's, and you see him burning Picasso's, he's telling you that this time period and this era and this group of men didn't exist. And I've seen that happen in other countries. I've been to the Sudan, and you'll see that it's not enough to kill them. You have to destroy all of the markings that they left that were their history. So to me, what was important about telling the story was also to say that is art worth dying for? I don't know if a single inanimate object is worth dying for, but if it means that you're going to try to erase my history and say that I never was here, then I think that's very much worth dying for. And I thought that was what these men were so brave in doing, and I thought that was an interesting story to tell.
Okay, the lady here in the third row, and then a lady in the fourth row. We'll get the microphone down here.
Hi. Usually, war films are quite hard-hitting and overbearing sometimes. So, when did you guys mean to approach it as a comedy, or was that something that came up while writing the script or during filming?
Grant, would you like to start on that?
We always knew that we wanted to have humor in this piece. George and I grew up watching a lot of the war films of our youth, and a lot of them had sort of a gallows humor, and these kind of guys dealt with this situation with humor, and we deal with life with humor. So we always knew that we wanted to have some funny tone, but we also knew that there were, we were dealing with a subject that there was that was very serious in nature. So there was a real balancing act that we did, and that really was the fun of making the piece, was trying to strike that balance and that tone. And then we cast all these guys, and they brought like another level of humor to it that we didn't write.
Lower level.
A lower level, that's right. They lowered the level of humor.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a question for George. George, you were in the area local to our paper, filming your basic training scenes, and I was just wondering if there was any basic training that took place, or was it more just having a laugh together in preparation?
I think John should take that question. John?
I couldn't understand it.
Was there a lot of basic training?
Basic training?
Definitely. Involved in a knife and a fork.
Yeah. It was the most basic kind of training.
Basic training. Bill, did you have any basic training? Did you feel?
I had some basic training too. Mine involved, you know, it's a movie really about men, but I learned things from women on this film. I learned that when you have to put on a tight pair of pants, you lie on your back. Isn't that right, ladies? Isn't that what you do? You put your feet up in the air and lie on your back, and then you're able to close the button over your belly.
I'd just like to say something about, we couldn't have done this film as easily as we did without the expert knowledge of Joe Hobs, who was from this country. I'd worked with him several times before. He was an expert at military uniforms, kit, gear. He knew what belonged where to which army, and he had a very exacting eye, and we lost him around Christmas time, and I'd just like to pay tribute to Joe Hobs.
Yeah. We love him.
Okay. Simon, I think you've got a question, then we'll move it back.
And then for Matt, if I may, although Bob's not listening. Question for you, Bob.
It's a question for you.
That's what we had to deal with.
Answer the question, Bob. Answer the question.
I'm so sorry. We're having a private discussion. Excuse me.
Okay, no problem. Having been directed by the likes of Steven Spielberg, I wondered how you assess Mr. Clooney's skills behind the camera. And for Matt, what is it like being told to do stuff by essentially your mate?
It makes you very unhappy. Bill's impossible, but we don't talk about it particularly. What do you have to say about that, Bill?
I think there's some confusion here.
Yeah. Okay, back to Bob again. How do you rate Mr. Clooney as a director compared to, say, the likes of Steven Spielberg?
He's one of the best directors I've ever worked with. That's the serious part. The other part is we really had fun. To me, good work happens when somebody knows what they're doing. This is George. Plans what they're doing.
Not
works.
Spielberg.
Yeah. No.
That hack.
He's a really hard worker, and he makes it look easy because he kind of knows the secret because he's been an actor for a few months. He knows you have to be relaxed and happy when you're working, and it works. It's great.
And then for Matt, what's it like sort of being directed by someone who's essentially your
It's actually much easier to be directed by a friend. Having written screenplays with friends, it's when you're partnering with somebody who's a friend of yours, you cut out all of the diplomacy, which really wastes a lot of time. And there's all this. There's a whole way to speak. You're supposed to speak to each other on film sets or in the theater, you know, and it's all about protecting people's egos and their feelings. But when you're working with your friend, they just say that sucked, you know. And there's a baseline of trust, and that never comes into question. And you solve the problems a lot quicker, and so it's a lot more fun. And so it makes it more fun because you're getting stuff done faster. You're feeling good about what you're doing, and you're having a good time because you're with your friends.
And talking about having a good time, John and Jean Dujardin, you probably had said your adieu after The Artist. How did you enjoy being reunited for this?
Oui, c'est un plaisir. Et effectivement, c'est un plaisir. Et c'est toujours un... Enfin, moi, c'était très différent. C'était un plaisir d'être avec tout le monde, évidemment, et d'avoir mes scènes avec John.
For me, it was very different. It was a pleasure to be with everybody, of course, and to have my scenes with John.
Parce que ce que j'aime bien avec John, c'est qu'on ne se dérange pas.
What I like about being with John is that we don't bother each other.
J'aime beaucoup... Non, mais j'aime beaucoup ses silences.
I love his silences.
Et j'en ai aussi moi-même beaucoup.
And I have a lot of them too.
Et j'ai le sentiment qu'on commence à jouer avant l'action, tous les deux.
And I have this feeling that we start to act before the actual action.
C'est toujours très respectueux même si on se connaît pas bien, je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de tendresse.
And it's always very respectful, and even if we don't really know each other well, I feel that there's a lot of tenderness.
I love you, John. I'm sorry.
I didn't know he was French.
Yes, he's French. He's French. Yes.
There's a lady in the second row with the next question.
Hello. Talking of having fun on set, we heard there was a few pranks between Matt and George, and I wondered whether you could talk about that, please.
Well, we didn't. You know, I actually was busy, so I didn't really do a whole lot of pranking. But there was one situation. Matt showed up early when we were about to start shooting and said he wanted to lose a couple of pounds. He looked fine, but he said he wanted to lose a couple of pounds.
So stupid of me.
You should never have told me that. And so over a period of about a month and a half, he would come and go. He would come to the set. he'd work for a couple of weeks, and then he'd go back to LA for a couple of weeks. And every time he would go away, I would have the wardrobe girl just take in his uniform just like a half an inch. And he was eating like a grape. And then his pants were getting tighter. And I never actually discussed it with him. I found out only a few days ago that it really disturbed you.
Yeah, and I never said anything because I thought I was being professional and trying to lose weight, and it wasn't working. My favorite prank he actually did was his father's in the movie at the very end of the movie, and there's this beautiful shot of him. He's in this like really lovely scene. He plays George as an old man, and he walks off into the light, you know, as he's leaving the church at the end. And George ran the film for him, you know, he just privately ran the film for his dad, Nick. And at the end of the film, this is my final shot of Nick walking away. It faded to black, and a cryon came up that said, "In loving memory of Nick Clooney." And so Nick was like, "What the hell, George?" And George is like, "Well, I mean, it doesn't come out for like 6 months, you know."
It's much cheaper. It's much cheaper to take it off than it is to put it on.
Thank you. And there's a lady here in red, and then we come back to the second row. Thank you.
Hi. Sadly, there are very few of the actual Monuments Men still alive. You've got Harry sitting over there. What would you like to say to him?
We've been saying a lot to him, so I would like to say, you know, when Dimitri, who did a wonderful job in this film, was playing Harry, the things you see in the film about Harry leaving Karlsruhe, Germany at 13 years old and coming to New Jersey, of all places, and then when he was a little older.
What do you mean, of all places?
And when he came back and then joining back up with the army, he in his hometown wasn't allowed to see Rembrandt's self-portrait, and did find it in the mine later. But there's also, Harry, why don't you tell them the story of your grandfather's drawings as well that you found, right, in the mines?
Yes, I was able to collect my grandfather's print collection, which consisted of 3,000 that he had as a hobby, a group of 1,500 prints that go into the inside cover of books that people had acquired to have a library in their home and used to come along and teach them how to lead a better life. And that was prevalent in former days before your days, and for that matter before mine, because I'm a young guy, and but he was that was a hobby that was great over here, and I was able to retrieve his collection and do something for my family at that particular time, in addition to doing something for my country, the USA.
Wonderful. And second row here, there's a gentleman, then we'll move to the back. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. Sadly, Hugh isn't here today, so I was wondering were there any Downton discussions, or perhaps he's trying to recruit any of you guys. Would you be tempted for a little guest spot?
Well, the reason Hugh's not here is because we didn't get along with him.
We didn't. When we say we all got along, most of us got along.
Also, not fans of that show, so it was all.
We're gonna have to get.
No, he's actually working.
Okay.
On Downton Abbey, and we are all fans, and it was great to have the Lord of the Manor there. He is the Lord of the Manor.
He's really fine. Yeah, we actually wish he was here. He was with us in Germany, but now he's stuck working. So he's missed right now because you would be asking him a lot of questions, and we wouldn't have to answer.
That's what we're glad he's not here.